Throughout my years of teaching, I have observed a trend in poor academic performance among students. Students were not remembering what they learned from one chapter to the next. They were not remembering what they learned in prerequisite classes prior to my class. This observation was supported by the data collected on the pretest given to my Human Anatomy and Physiology class. Students were failing to demonstrate proficiency on content that is vertically aligned with Human Anatomy and Physiology from Biology 1. I also reviewed the test scores from the Mississippi Biology 1 subject area test. Students enrolled in honors courses were not scoring advanced on the test. I began to observe the teaching practices of others and reflect on those of my own. Instruction was being carried out primarily through lecture. The students were frantically trying to write down notes from a whiteboard or PowerPoint. The only time the student's ability is being assessed is on the unit post-test. This is the primary instructional method used in science classes for the last 20 years. The current science instructional model was teacher-centered. I needed an instructional model that made the students a part of their learning. Duman, Jensen, Palik and Akdeniz, Sati and Kaklaroglu, and Scanlon all agree that learning is better accomplished when the student is actively engaged in the content versus passively writing notes. In Cycle 1, I began to use kinesthetic activities as an instructional tool to teach anatomy in place of PowerPoint lectures. I got the students up and moving to learn. The students reported enjoying this, and I could visibly see who was or was not getting the subject matter. Students were given access to study guides which could be completed through Google Docs and shared with me, or printed out and completed by hand. Students who completed the documents online were given formative feedback throughout the process. This was implemented in both Cycles 1 and Cycle 2. By having the students complete these study guides online, I could closely monitor student progress even while not in the classroom. When lecture was used, I had students write notes prior to the lecture session in Google Docs. During lecture, multiple choice questions were embedded into the PowerPoint, and student performance was immediately assessed using classroom performance systems by eInstruction. The students referred to this system as clickers. This method was used in Cycle 1 and 2. Students would frequently ask to play clickers as if it were a game rather than an assessment. In Cycle 2, I noticed that the students were having trouble making connections between concepts. I had the students use Google drawing tools to create and share concept maps to show relationships in complex concepts such as organic compounds and the levels of structural organization of the human body. I provided the students with formative feedback throughout the process. On the Cycle 2 post-test, this produced an increase in the students' ability to classify organic compounds and the tissues of the human body. Students were required to submit a reflective writing through Google Docs after each reading assignment. This allowed me to monitor the reading comprehension and also offer feedback on any misconceptions they might have or things that they didn't dig deep enough into in the lesson. I was able to offer them this feedback while they completed their homework. This gave me the opportunity to offer the students feedback while they completed their homework. This also allowed me to continue to instruct my students even after the school day had ended. Post-test data was gathered using ELS Easy Assessment. In green we have the pre-test data, and in gray is the post-test data. Growth was shown in all objectives except for one. Students had already displayed mastery of objective number 1. I will continue next school year with Cycle 3. I will implement more hands-on inquiry-based activities to increase the students' understanding of the chemical basis of life and hopefully show growth in those objectives. My data indicates that reflective writing, kinesthetic activity, and clickers all work to increase student academic outcomes.